funding at the district level, effectively leaving funding grants sitting at the local level. What that actually has done is you now have to deal with the reserves that have been in the past at the local level, and how you deal with those reserves that are loans. And I talked a little bit about internal loans, and what happens with those reserves and surplus. What I thought I would do is just get a bit of reserves 101, and back on what they are, what we can do with them, type of thing. So effectively, reserves are created to ensure funds received for a particular purpose. Any surplus is generated through that activity. So if we have an activity surplus on because our costs were less than we budgeted, the funds are held for use for that purpose. Grouped into it. So that allows you to say in your grants budget, you have unspent money, it goes into a reserve and it can be used in the future for that purpose. The ring-fence is the revenue received, surplus generated for those purposes, and the nature of the reserves can either be a general reserve, a targeted reserve, or a specific. And I'll get specific reserves and other reserves out of the way because they are pretty much earmarked for purposes. So, probably the same thing about committees and trusts. There's the aging trustees and usually requests given to council to administer all that specific. It might be by loan books. And then you've got things like unreserved, which are chain free, applied reserves committee, foreign local reserves committee. So they're only available for those purposes. We've collected, we've got money in there. We're effectively acting as the banker for those groups. They do what they want when they do it. So they could be, or they could be a group that's set up. And when you were talking about the foundation, if someone now wanted to get money to the council, they can still stand that money for specific purposes. So if it was someone in Teviot, they could turn in and say, we want this money to be used for this purpose, and see with that. And that's what we do. So there'd be a specific reserve. Okay. Move the next one, thanks, Sarah.
I do see some prior
specific reserves. Depending where the money's coming from, they could be giving you the money, or the council might come in and say, we're doing this particular thing, we want to bring things that even more than it possibly could. Could be all the community board might come and say, we have got these funds, and we'll talk about this later. We actually want to earmark those funds for those particular purposes, and that would be obviously it would need to go through a council process because ultimately the council would make the decision, but then you need the feedback from the community board as to what that might be. Then we have general reserves. General reserves are usually levied across an area, so in the area there would have been a general type of delivery where everybody paid it rather than a targeted reserve and something. That sits at the district level as well, so your UAGC is a general reserve, everybody pays it. Your general reserve, your general rates form a part of the general reserve because everybody pays it. But not levied for a specific purpose.
So all the UAGC rates goes
to. Yeah. So what we've had in the past, that's the UAGC. UAGC used to pay. UAGC used to pay for the sport. It was a community council. What we do after UAGC is going to by limiting it to paying for the members' cost, you couldn't use it for anything else because that's what we said paying. So what we've done is we've said, well, it's just a different type of general reserve. We're actually funding work out of the general rate. And a component of the general rate based on land value and another component will pay our state. That then gets the council ways of lower charge, which will impact the amount that so it gives us a bit of a rates rather than anything else with that. So,
The variation.
first variation. So we talked a little bit about that, didn't differentiate, so we now do combine those two reserves into the move to the next one. Then we get what's called targeted reserves. So things that would fall into a targeted reserve, something that's target rated, say water, wastewater, stormwater, targeted reserve. They can only be specific. So that's what a targeted reserve was. However, some activities may be funded from the same rate. So any reserves created this way can be used across those activities. Right? So we had a district works in toilet road that paid for unsubsidised roading as well as public toilets. So you could get some match when you put that reserve money into either of those two. Next one, thanks. And then we move into what's probably the most important parts that we've taken. They're the same as targeted reserves at the district level, but they're by targeted rates. So there is a bit of complexity in the introduction of rates harmonisation. So I actually think so we're talking about harmonisation across the district. Most of the people, this body is now funded district-wide, those types of things. What it has done, this harmonisation has potentially created what I'm calling extreme reserves. As the activities that were normally funded through ward target rates are now district funded, district-wide rates. So we used to have an old recreation and culture activities such as parks and reserves, swimming pools, they were funded by target rate. They're now part of the community facilities rate at the district. So those funding is now not going into those other reserves. The district has taken over how they fund those and what happens in work being done. So all those reserves are collected in relation to board activities, potentially can't transfer money. Now negative. So it sits there doing nothing. So you've also got both surplus and deficit reserves. So how do we pay the deficits back? How do we deal with the surpluses? So we move on to the next one. The other one I want to talk about is internal loans. I know that's quite good. But the question is, what are they? Internal loans on the whole include costs, uses current reserves to fund the project and sets a rating level. We're not talking governance group. talking community board or a district. So they are governance groups. Effectively, we have 5 governance groups within the council. It can also be used to fund projects between governance groups. So there are examples where Cromwell, for argument's sake, effectively lent money to fencing, or they lent money to the Three Waters activity. And we also, so that's the second line there. We also have an instance, and it's in relation to swimming pool, we all know about it, where the general reserve from Teviot lent to Roxburgh swimming pool reserve, not to the swimming pool itself. Money out. Yeah. And then it's
Understood, okay.
district organisation is because effectively what district organisation by everybody going to pay community facilities right.
Clearly, my expectation.
Go back to that.
Yeah, I will come to that. Yeah. So we move on to the first is a couple of facts there. We've got $4.09 million of internal loans. Now, and I didn't put internal loans in place. They're not regular loans. And 2.848 million is, again, quotes, lent by a governance group to itself. That's effectively what most of what we would have called in loan is shifting money from one reserve. So you kind of probably Peter to pay Peter, if you know what I mean. You're not paying anybody outside of that. So we move on to the next one. So we've got a couple of issues. Reserve and internal loans are either granted by target rates, or they rely on target rates for repayment. This is the issue. There are now no targeted rates at water being levied. It is all done districtly. So those reserves and internal loans would become stranded. They can't be used for any other activity other than fund they've created due to rate training. So you can't take a significant institute of this being done and then say that it needs to be covered by the district. So that's we've got to do what's happening. So what we're trying to do is get rid of those stranded loans. So deficit reserves and internal loans cannot be easily returned to nil, as I've said, because you have no ability to levy a rate outside of harmonisation. What it would mean if the council decided that it needed to do that, it would actually have to undo districtisation to a certain extent and levy a differential on each of the wards to repay the deficit. Is that, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So what that means is that something over and above the district rate that you would pay, you would then also have to pay in Teviot's case, pay for whatever deficit reserves you have. That would be a charge on the Teviot people.
But we were always planning on charging, I think it was to pay back that 250,000 Like, we're always planning to do that. But
What, okay, I think we need to, what you're actually asking the ratepayers to do is, you're right to a certain extent, but it's charging them to top up your reserve again. That's what it is. I mean, in that particular case, there was no physical line to document transferring out of the debt reserve to the pool.
funds.
And then you're going to charge the Teviot Valley ratepayers to replenish that money. That's what that's like. The problem with that is that it's all district funded, and the council, if it was going to do that, would have to do it at a district level, given that it's an service rates. If it did it at a district level, that means every ratepayer within the district would not only be contributing to Teviot's deficits, but Teviot from deficits. What a good plan is that we might anybody that had to go into a district repayment program.
But you've got endowment.
Yep.
That's why
Right, so here's our internal lines. The top three, I think there are three there. That the top three, that's Cromwell lending to other parts of the business. Sorry. They're not. I will send you a copy. But 1.084 million thanks to one is government's group lending to another government. They have taken money out of their reserves and given it to another community. So Cromwell paid to the district 322,000, which is the top one, for public toilets. Cromwell paid to Vincent 87,000 for Alex Town Centre, and Cromwell paid to the district 604,000. So those are loans between government bodies. Within here, the district loan had three loans to Vincent, so that is for the Albert Street building, the Alex Town Centre, and the ANZ Bank Street. It then led to itself general reserve to the Alex Airport reserve, 171,000, and then the balance of those, the total led to itself was finance store, hospital, Teviot, as we know, led to itself in Roxburgh Pool, and then Vincent led to itself for the last three there for the Alex Town Centre, Molly Pool, and the Ice Line roof upgrade. Yeah, there's a question. There's a building. Yeah, there's a question. We own the yeah. So those are the internal lines. So what we're proposing, this is what we loans by a government's group to sell, then we write those. So effectively, because we can't levy any rates, it's fine. Loan comes out, no fund. those potentially stringent loan balances that we would not have an ability to repay. Unless the council chose to take a different tack and basically get the district to start paying for those deficits. And given that the district now picks up the costs associated with all those activities that were broadly, I would suggest that it wouldn't see the necessity of paying, in fact, money, get money back in for the conference to the district program. That's the first part.
No, I'm just thinking back.
Yep.
And we agree.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
And we, on my, we agree. What's then? So wouldn't say that. You can see these things changing.
What I think it's more is that,
I'm just sort of trying to get my,
yeah, I get you. I think it's
community were quite happy for us to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
There was no commentary coming about going, that idea.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
pushing the progress ahead.
Yeah.
On the back of districtisation and the other impact that having on rates, saying that, what decision back then?
Yes, in
I
terms
don't see any
Yeah,
other
no,
solution to the issue, but
the decisions, districtisation is to change the way we funding how we do. In the past, you would have had, and it's prevalent in other communities as well, where they may have overspent their reserves with a similar thing that we're now rate to replace those reserves, back to zero. Because that's how the costs don't come in linear 1 year. You have a big project, you need to do this. Don't have the money sitting in our reserve, running into deficit, and separate rate to put it back. So there's a whole bunch of decisions that were made at the time based on the system that we had in place. We went through the district process. So there was some opposition. Various this is one of them, but at the end of the day, a decision was made to stop funding activities at local level, which absolutely kind of sits over every other decision made prior. Particularly what we have to do now is tidy up. This is the tidy.
So I just don't understand what happens.
Well, I can talk about that. That's not because effectively, well, what we're not doing is we're not liquidating the surplus. So you guys have, I think you have. That in surplus over basically all your reserves. So what we're actually doing is saying, let's deal with internal loans. There's no way to pay. We want to do the deficit reserves. And the deficit reserves are like the go to the next slide, please. Yeah, no, move on to the next one. Yeah, that one. So in terms of internal loans, because there are 6 of them effectively that are between activities, we will do a transfer back to the lending reserve. So in this particular case, Commonwealth will get 1.08 million, district reserve, general reserve will decrease by 393,000. The Alex County Centre reserve will decrease by 87. We will raise water debt, external debt for water, 605,000. That will probably put it back to prior to the internal loans between. The same with the general reserve. The general reserve will increase by 160, and those 3 reserved by those amounts: 7K, 21K, 25K. So that deals with the inter-governing body loans. Almost putting it back, the loans can be made. Now that may lead deficits, that may lead lower surplus. The reality is overall $800,000 it's in the fund. The other 3 is a total of 16. Guys are just under 9,000. In Vincent's a tad over 9 million. Now there's a bunch of clips of Vincent reserves to fund and so this and I predict when we presented to Vincent so they're 9 million goes in stuff.
Like the payout for when private sector can happen.
Yeah.
There's
Yes, absolutely. So you would have that much. Yes, exactly. So what we're going to do, talking to community boards, we're talking to council, we're going to eliminating and transferring the internal loans and eliminating transferring the deficit reserve balances. Those balances are going to be eliminated within so deficit balance. Teviot, a surplus balance.
So ours is going to be 859.
It was
223.
No, because there's no in the reserves. That 223, it's not accounted for the revenue. So you will still have 859. Then you will overall reserve balance. So internal loans are separate. So if we can go ahead to I know this is going to be really massive, but the left-hand column is the unadjusted balance, unaudited 30 June 2020. The next column is the reserve movements. Then the regulatory loans we can put in there, and then you've got a closing balance 30 June 2024. You can see at the bottom, you're still sitting at 85892. All we're doing is we need to eliminate the community halls Teviot balance. You can see that's the top one of $8,200. We're not dealing with the Roxbury entertainment because that's money spent on site clearing, etc. And the insurance money will go into that. So it will stay in group and the reboot costs will come out. So we don't have that in yet, obviously, but we will. Then you've got reserves Teviot Valley that's got a deficit balance of 75,000. Roxbury has a minor balance of $838. So the thing that you can also see is on the far left hand side in terms of description of the right, Teviot Valley Recreation Culture Show. Those reserves, community Teviot, Oxford Memorial Reserves, Teviot Valley, were created by rate funding from the now defunct Recreation Culture. So we can move money around within that group, but we can't move money from that group outside. So we also then have the Teviot Valley Board Services Chart, which is the next one down, and that covers the forestry at Roxburgh. And then we have a small amount of the Teviot Valley Board Services rate. So the Board Services charge was the fixed charge, the Board Services rate was the variable charge that was levied. You've got a small amount, just like Teviot Valley. So if you can go back one page, this is what we're proposing. So we're going to take out of the general reserves Teviot Valley 52,000. These are rounded, by the way. And we're going to transfer that to reserves Teviot Valley. So that starts to eliminate that. We're going to transfer from the general reserves Teviot Valley 10K and put that into forestry. Transfer from general reserves Teviot Valley 5K and transfer that to property general Teviot Valley. And then transfer from general reserves Teviot Valley to Roxburgh. So if you then go into the next slide, you can see those changes. Ultimately, it's a $68,000 reduction in your general reserve, 522,000 to 454,000. The deficit balances, apart from the entertainment centre, are eliminated. It effectively deals with, gets rid of the reserves Teviot Valley, it pays for deficit balances within its group. It also full Valley, the other side of that. Then sort of go. So this transfers money out of the elected members Teviot Valley. Should stop there. Second. Transferring rock forest. First of that, one is 10, one is 9, that gives them 19. Teviot Valley Walkway Committee had 23. That's going into reserves Teviot Valley. That's in deficit of 75. And the Roxburgh Memorial 8 goes to. We've got a small $200 charge left over for you. So effectively, what all that is, go back to that table. Effectively, what that does is it eliminates all of your deficit. It leaves you with surplus balances that that what we would be proposing to council is that those balances still sit in the community. And if there are projects that you want to further, this might be the first port of call, or if the council comes along and says, right, we're going to, let's just say, bragging sake, we're going to make the entertainment centre a $10 million project rather than a $6 million project. We might suggest that your general reserves goes towards that in the first point. Your account plan could be put reserves where it's impacting specifically the area. The reserves will be used up first before the district funds kick in, and then the district would then fund the balance of it.
That's, what would that reserve get used for? R&M?
32K. You know, I guess that these things would sit there for as long as sit there and be upgraded or expanded or whatever you wanted to do in that space. The principle would be that we would come and look at the community funding first. Yeah. Well, you guys have got 32K, the total cost of 100. 32K comes from this reserve and 68 comes from the district.
Given that, maybe I'm wrong, saying that I can't foresee some money needed to be spent on. So how and when would be ever spent? How and when would need to pay into
They do
general?
They do all the time.
No.
That's it.
The collective, look, you may be able to look at we haven't looked at that part of it yet. What we really want to do is get the deficits cleaned up for, so we've got.
I can see how the others get used, the grants and the promotions. And the understanding is going to get.
Yeah.
One flat pool is likely to fall on. In the future.
Yeah.
Right, Centre can't say. So if we really to leave that deal, we'll be making a decision where, in 5 years' time, we could be saying, oh shit, you know, it's sitting there, we can't use it. And
It's being used for OPEX as well as capital.
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be used for
OPEX, so it's just the day-to-day maintenance and
it
that.
could be used for.
Yeah, so we could draw that down
Yeah.
to fund additional maintenance or just regular maintenance at the Roxburgh Cemetery. So it would only be spent on the Roxburgh Cemetery. Well, because if it's collected and tagged for Roxburgh Cemetery, it can only be spent in Roxburgh Cemetery.
So there's a charge, so that's what it was.
Yeah, so the district say, well, let's keep that same principle. Let's just say we spend $20,000 a year on mowing Roxburgh Cemetery, and I don't know what the cost is.
Yeah.
Of there's 32, that'll cover 1 year's mowing at the cemetery.
I think the other heavy reserves. Not really not that you but that's district. It's actually no. So what we've actually got to look out can we, well, it comes from the Teviot Valley Water Services charge, which would pay for everybody in the Teviot Valley. It was just the UAPC for. No, you had the elected members there, already got the cemetery. Yeah. So that's that particular rate paid for those three together. But it was of general nature. So I guess the next step, which doesn't really impact the community, because it's not like, you know, we're taking money, it's going to put it in anyway. You've got, you know, you've got 150,000 in your. I guess the question is, should it be 490,000? Yeah. 32. Yeah. But the general principle rate for a particular activity, that cemeteries in Roxburgh would have that as a rate. That's what it needs to be used for.
No, been, I mean, was a thing. That fact
Yeah, we need to look at how, so the general principle around raising is you collect money for the purpose.
Yeah, they might agree with you.
What happens
Well, it should stop. That's right, and there's quite a lot of law around this. So there's quite a lot of law around it. So you can't just rate someone and say, okay, we're going to rate you for this purpose. Then 3 years down, change your mind, and go, oh, I'm going to use it. Well, so well, that's not fair. You rated them for this specific purpose. That's not for that.
Given there's a cemetery reserve, then you know that you're going to spend $1 million on the cemetery.
No, it's rated for, right, for care, so it can only spend in the 10.
One for the new fence around the new gate.
That's right. That could be used for that.
Yeah, that's the top. The other interesting thing is that you've got the Teviot Development Fund and the one below it, so 137 and 17. The development fund is your reserves contribution, so that's from subdivisions. That stands in your space and is used for playground, for recreation, to the your space, so you don't lose that. Effectively, we've left the Miller's Flat pool there, because you know there could be a pool on that. We deal with rock cemetery, whether it needs to be generalised or not, but effectively leaves you $730,000 of generalised rates that you can use in your space. Projects, got somebody you want the district to about on. It's almost your contribution to the build zone.
With the endowment there.
Well, the lien doesn't get sold. I guess it's generating something.
It's almost, the amount it's generating.
So that reserves could create something. And you know, this is the money that's available that is tagged from the down. It's not, it must be used on the down. It come from it's in a general space, so you can use it. Because it's got you down, legally down, so I guess what we're saying is the net position that hasn't changed. What we're actually saying is we've got a whole bunch of reserves that can't be covered. It's the same across the board. If we go can't pay, it's getting sorted, it's got your bucket of money that you can use to do what. But that's the proposal.
So with the pool one, if we were to try and dig our toes in, whether we'd be successful or not is another issue. But if we were to dig our toes and say, no, we were going to rate for it, we just wanted something to rate for it, and it was over 10 years, it would be $22,000 a year. So it's $15 a rate per year for 10 years. If we were to try something, keep doing that. It's not saying we're successful and try to.
Yeah. I guess
award rate.
The council needs to make a decision. About the structure. For that to change, that is the council decision. It would then need to be public consultation, because what you're actually now doing is introducing a new rate. It relates to the differential if it's a new rate
For the board.
and that would require a potential amendment to our long-term plan. So if the council of a mind to, then it may not happen until the next LCP when we are doing a public consultation. So certainly but I guess my question would be, given that the council has already rated for the swimming pools. And it's taking on responsibility for funding all of the district. What you're actually rating for is to increase the pot that you can spend specifically
on another issue.
yeah, where that flies in the face of district. That's what I'm saying.
So how help the swallow?
We just do a quick fire and fire.
Because it's,
But I must say though, you're in a reasonably strong position with the reserves you have. Because actually, pretty much, brings it nets out to zero.
Islands.
well,
So,
money.
I mean, so you have choices. I mean, they're definitely your choices, but the council would have to sort of verify. And look, equally too, it has to be spent on things that are valued by the community. It's not, you know, it's not frivolous. No, but I'm just saying.
That's.
Yeah.
Want to rent that cage?
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, you talked about that additional land, but if you wanted to purchase that block of land,
Yeah.
then potentially council would entertain that, but say, how are we going to fund that? You say, well, we've got $858,000 right here. You know, so, because that's not going to be free, that has to come from somewhere, and we don't necessarily want it to come out of the insurance. No, but then that limits what you can spend as well. So, I mean, there's going to be a bit of a quid pro quo there.
Big discussion.
All I'd like to say, I mean, that's very, very.
Yeah, and this is across 4 wards where there's different deficits, and it's been a bit of a nightmare, to be honest.
Yeah, no, well done.